Before we get into this episode, there's something that might be of interest that I wanted to tell you about. Scene and Heard, who run this podcast, have been asked by Scotland Food and Drink to undertake a strategic review of the Scotland Food and Drink Excellence Awards. Now, these Excellence Awards have been going for almost 20 years and are a huge mainstay of the food and drink sector. But it's time to ensure that they're still relevant. So if you have ever been involved in the Scotland Food and Drink Excellence Awards, or even if you've ever had an opinion about them, we would love for you, please, to complete our survey. So if you go to the OnFARM Twitter, which is at @on_farm UK, and click the link in the bio, there will be a tab in there that will take you to the survey, and it should only take you a very short while to complete, but we would be enormously grateful.
Welcome to a packed episode of OnFARM. Thanks for being with us. My name's Monty, Ross Montague. Right now, I'm sitting in a field of sheep, giving a look to some ewes and lambs on a glorious sunny evening here in Lauderdale. It's great to be outside. I've spent a large part of the week in my little office, recording remote interviews for this podcast. And of course, like many of you, trying to make an effort at homeschooling round the kitchen table. I'll tell you what, if there's any teachers listening, I take my hat off to you. It's definitely not business as usual at the moment, in so many ways. But this episode is all about business. Specifically, the business done every summer over the 4 days of the Royal Highland Show.
Hello, I'm Caroline from Ogilvy Spirits. We're producers of Scottish potato vodka that we make at my husband's family farm in Angus.
Robert Taylor from Dale's Agri Sales Agency Limited in Allendale, Northumberland. We're farm machinery importers.
We take a stand at the Highland Show because it's got a fantastic base for our products, with it being a farming based show and us being farmers that have diversified to produce potato vodka. We've got a great audience there who are willing to sample and also hopefully going to buy.
We've been going to the Highland Show for 15 consecutive years as Dale's Agri Sales Agency. Prior to that, the founder and managing director of the company, Charlie Halliday, he hasn't missed a show for 40 years apart from foot and mouth. That's how highly we regard the Highland Show for our business.
Last year was actually our first year at it. It's taken us a while to get into the Highland Show, especially I think when you're a smaller producer and a lesser known brand. It's just a great way to have all that footfall there and you put yourself in front of them and show what you've got to offer.
We look forward to the Highland Show because we know we're going to get some business. We've got the social aspect where we meet a huge number of our past customers and current customers, and also, most importantly, new customers.
I take a stand at the Highland Show because it puts us front and centre in front of a heap of consumers. It's Jock here from Macbeths Butchers, based up in Forres in Murray. We specialise in Highland and Shorthorn beef from our own farm, Edenvale. We also have found that we've picked up suppliers at the Highland Show and also customers, and so the ongoing business that we've had from it has been incredible.
When somebody's relaxed and you've got a rapport with them, the business seems to flow. It's a lot easier to talk about the finances and the machinery when people are relaxed and happy in your company, and that's the way we've always found the best business to work.
Ogilvy Spirits, Dale's Agri and Macbeths Butchers. Some of the many trade stand holders we're hearing from in this OnFARM episode. It's the fourth in our special series in association with the Royal Highland and Agricultural Society of Scotland. The Highland Show, when you're there, can feel like a bit of a whirlwind. It's always packed, busy, trade stands all around, everyone looking to hook you in, lots of chat, voices, people you know, lots going on. Everyone seems to be grabbing your attention. I think in this episode we're going to try and replicate that. We're going to bombard you with voices and we're going to try to get as close as we can to the real frenetic Highland Show experience.
Hello, I'm Kim Cameron, the founder of Gin Bothy in Kerrymuir. So back in 2015, I decided to go to the Highland Show for the first time. The first day, which is normally the quietest, we sold out within kind of 4 hours. So I was back in the van, straight back up to the Bothy to fill up. And the same thing happened on the Friday, back up the road to fill up, and the same on the Saturday. And actually on the Sunday, we had no stock left. So it was a fantastic start to our Highland Show season.
You're not going to generally sell, a £30,000-40,000 machine in 5 minutes of meeting a person. But it's amazing how many phone calls we'll get a year, 18 months, 2 years, 3 years later. Even they've seen us, they took a brochure, they had a cup of coffee. And then, when the time is right for them to look for a certain piece of equipment, we're at the top of their list.
My name is Gilbert Thompson. I'm the owner of Country Refreshments based at Lanark Agricultural Centre. We cater at most of the large events throughout the country. The Highland Show is the highlight of the year. And this would have been my 35th year, believe it or not. Yeah. The first time I was there was in 1985. Any business that relates to agriculture at all has got to be at the Highland Show. We're well known there. We've got a lot of loyal customers. We're actually there for about 12, 13 days by the time we set up and break down and all the rest of it. So it's a big part of our season.
The show is worth around £65 million every year to the Scottish economy. For those we've heard from so far, at least part of the value is about making sales over the 4 days. But of course, that's not all there is to it.
Unlike a machinery tradesman who is hoping to snare 1 or 2 tractor sales or bits of kit sales over the course of 4 days, we see it as very much a long-term development of our business. My name is Robert Taylor. I'm a partner with Galbraiths, property land agents and chartered surveyors. I farm in Monright with my wife. But the day job is a partner with Galbraiths, and I specialise principally in lending money through the Agricultural Mortgage Corporation, and I also value and sell farms as well.
From my understanding, there's a real kind of almost competitiveness amongst the estate agency type firms as to who can bring the properties onto the market before the Highland Show and have them advertised, in the week running up, and then showcase them at the show. Is that's a big thing for you, isn't it?
Do you know, Monty, we would all deny it, but on record, it's absolutely the case. To have the Scottish Farmer opened up in the Highland Show preview and who's got the most pages of farms, it's just a good thing to see. It shows that you've cultivated business, you're there to do business, and that also creates a buzz itself. You have, as I said, professionals like lawyers coming around who are maybe acting for a seller or a purchaser, and they'll maybe want to speak to one of our agents about it. Just pegging back a wee bit, Monty, we joined the Highland Show a number of years ago, and to be honest with you, I'm the old guard at Galbraiths. I'm not entirely sure they realised what they were missing, because since we've been at the Highland Show, it has made a huge difference to our business. Our profile as a rural specialist in property has grown tenfold, not just with the farming community, but with the general public who obviously visit the show too. We were very lucky to get a pitch during an unfortunate time for another company who decided not to take their stand that particular year, and it's dead men's shoes, literally. So we managed to get our foot in the door in a prime location behind the grandstand, and we would not miss the Highland Show for all the tea in China. On the 4 days that we are active at the show, we can have people walking into our stand that we might not hear again for 2 years. But if they've met us and we've introduced ourselves, we've cultivated that connection, hopefully they'll maybe give us a call one day when they need some help.
And presumably it's people put a face to the name of the experts who've maybe read a comment from in the paper, etc. It's the face-to-face that's important to you, is that right?
That's absolutely right. I think sometimes some of our colleagues get hunted down, me included. We'll get lawyers and accountants and bankers coming to say hello to us that we're doing mutual business with, trying to tie a deal together. The deal may already have been done, but it's just a case of pressing the flesh. And as you well know, Monty, the Highland Show is a hugely social event. I sometimes really struggle with the fine line that is business and pleasure. It's so much fun, and we do have hospitality on our stand. I know it can turn into a few old hoorie alley, as they say in Gaelic. But I think it's just a great thing. We can offer people a glass of something cold and a light refreshment. We are really opening our doors. It's hospitality. We're not there. There's no hard sell. And if people want to come and speak to us, as I said, in months or years to come after that, then that's what we do.
Just across the aisle from Galbraiths, every year at the show, is the Watson's Seeds stand. These days, Watson's is a big business, a familiar name, and a show sponsor with the well-known Watson's clock by the side of the main ring. I spoke to Johnny Watson. Johnny recalled the Highland Show was a key launch pad on the very first day of his new business back in 1990.
Day one of the Watson's Seeds business for me was the Highland Show. So those 4 days in 1990, 30 years ago, were very, very key for me. The extraordinary thing about the Highland Show, which anybody in business will know, is that I rattled round and spoke to a good 200 clients potentially over the 4 days and got invitations from a whole pile of farmers to come and see them. And the Highland Show gave me that platform to see people and get the opportunity to follow that up with farm visits.
Yeah, and in terms of sponsorship, Johnny, you're very visual with the sponsorship of the clock, etc. Does the whole opportunity of branding and awareness at the show, is that must be of huge benefit as well?
Yes, and it was probably, as a little fledgling business, somewhat audacious of me to put the clock up in from Hamilton and inches, dare I say it. I certainly couldn't afford to buy the damn thing, but I did because I thought long term this is going to be a good mark for who we want to be. The clock at the time, which had been very generously donated, I think, by the McRobert Trust or somebody, was all tumbled down and not really looking quite the part. So I volunteered to put something up that was more fit for purpose. And funny, as a wee boy, I think maybe 7 or 8, I remember meeting my mother under the clock. It's a meeting point, and it's quite ironic people meet under the clock still. It's a nice thing, and I think we made it fit for purpose. I think the clock looks correct in the main ring.
So yeah, your stand at the show, you have hospitality. And obviously your whole team there, speaking to customers old and new, clients old and new, advising them. It's a very important aspect of linking up with your customers and doing business, is it?
Well, I think a lot of businesses, sadly, they don't appreciate the fact that it's not a question of if you can afford to host such a thing, is can you afford not to? In my eyes, because it galvanizes my ladies and gents who work in the admin world, people involved in production. They all get to see how our team that are with the farmer operate, and it's a chance to introduce people from the administrative side of the business. I think it really has made the staff in the office particularly recognise the nature of where we fit in the industry. Obviously, farmers are phoning all the time to order seed. Well, if they've met at the Highland Show, it's much easier that, it's you, Lindsay, I remember chatting to you at the show and all this kind of thing. Right from the very start of my seedsmanship going round farms, which included everywhere from Kirkcudbright to Caithness, the farmers have been incredibly welcoming when you call. I remember one day in Dumfriesshire, I was too ashamed to tell the gentleman at 1 o'clock I didn't want my 3-course lunch because I'd already had one at 12 o'clock. It's that kind of friendliness and hospitality that you get on farm if you're calling, conducting your business. And we're very strong about the feeling we need to repay that, and hence the pavilion, and a small thank you for all the hospitality that the sales force and myself enjoy on farm.
Thanks again to Johnny Watson. This On-Farm podcast is about business. And so I was keen to gather the views from one of the major banks, Royal Bank of Scotland, who have, of course, been the main sponsor of the show for almost 40 years now.
Roddy McLean, I'm Director of Agriculture for the Royal Bank of Scotland. My personal involvement stems from coming as a kid and my interest in the sector growing, and I've spent the last far too many years making my living from either working in or supporting the sector. And it wasn't a difficult decision many years ago to become a member of the society. The bank has been involved since 1981, so almost 40 years of a partnership with the Society. It wouldn't have endured if it hadn't met the needs of both parties. And I say it's a great showcase for us. The Society has purpose, and it allows us to set our stall out and either engage directly or indirectly with almost 200,000 people that visit the show over the 4 days, whether it's at the branch or wandering around the showground, bumping into our ambassadors, or just being aware of the branding and the imaging that's everywhere to be seen along the alleys and in the big sheds.
Do you want to talk a little bit more about that then? The sort of value placed on the show by RBS as the mainline sponsor?
Yeah, well, the show celebrates the best in the sector. It brings the public and the agricultural community together and lets our farming businesses and us reach our customers. It has purpose, which ties in well with the bank's ethos. The Society is about people who value Scotland and who live in rural Scotland, which is most of Scotland, really. We as a bank want our customers and the communities in which we live and work in to thrive, and if that happens, we'll be successful too. And it's testament to the Society that it hasn't lost its heart as an agricultural show, that it's widened its reach and relevance to the wider public in Scotland.
We're going to come back and hear more from Roddy McLean later on in this episode. So, the secrets to a successful agricultural show. It's a balancing act, isn't it? You've got to stay true to the farming roots of the event, but you've also got to have that broad appeal to get the general public through the gates.
I'm Aled Rhys-Jones. I'm a farmer's son from Carmarthenshire in West Wales. Back in 2015, I was very fortunate to have been awarded a Nuffield Farming Scholarship to look at the future of agricultural societies and shows. These events are such a big stimulus to drive economic activity, whether that's in bookings in hotels and all the various knock-on implications of the events and the trade that goes on during the event.
I guess, though, that it's key that the shows stick to their agricultural roots, because that seems to be the glue that holds it together, isn't it? That's what the audience come to see, whether they're urban or rural.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And one of the things I reported on in the Nuffield report was it's so important that a show maintains its agricultural identity and the look and the feel of a genuine, credible farming event. And that was clearly something that had changed in the States. So there was a lot more funfair rides, music concerts. It was a big entertainment extravaganza, still with quite an important farming component. A lot of livestock would be showed in these events. But clearly you don't want to get the mix wrong. And I remember one of the sort of golden rules that we used to have at the Royal Welsh Show is we'd always make sure that 60% of the showground would be dedicated to agricultural stands, and only 40% would be then left for commercial stands. So we'd have two sort of broad categories, because we wanted to make sure that when people visited the Royal Welsh Show, they knew this was firstly and foremost a farming agricultural event. Because I think if you're a member of the public going to this event, you don't want to feel as if you're going to a fake farm fair. You want a genuine event. That was a conscious decision, because financially, because we'd have two different rates, we'd have an agricultural trade stand rate, which would be much cheaper than the commercial rate, given our charitable objectives. And we would then obviously make a decision that we would forego some income, because we wanted to protect that farming component within the event. So the income we would have from the 40% of the showground would be much, much more than the income we have from the 60%. But that was a nice sort of golden rule, a rule of thumb, which served us well at the Royal Welsh.
Aled Jones there. We're going to hear more of Aled's insights later in this series. But for now, we're moving on. We're going to look at how different rural businesses are coping in COVID lockdown.
I think everyone wants to make out that we're doing our best on a bad job, but the Highland Show not appearing this year is not only a severe blow professionally, also just personally for the human element, being able to meet and see people.
Obviously this year with COVID, we've been seriously hit. All events are cancelled at the moment. Weddings as well, they've all been cancelled. I mean, we're pretty much got to write the season off, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's challenging. I think most businesses are finding this quite a different period at the moment. But I think we're just trying to adapt as best we can. It is quite a big blow that we can't get out to all these events. Is quite an important part of our business, but we're trying to come up with new ways of doing that, and I think our digital presence is more important than ever right now. That's really our main route to communicate with people. So we've taken part in virtual farmers markets and things like that, and wherever we can find routes to engage with our customers, we're doing that. We've done virtual tour of the distillery for people too, to hopefully entice them when we are able to open again.
Certainly the lack of shows has focused the mind of how to promote Dales Agri Sales. We are advertising more heavily in the print sector and a lot more in social media.
So I should say from the outset, we have been very, very fortunate and probably one of the beneficiaries of the current situation. When we were told that we shouldn't be eating out at our hotels and restaurants, I have to say I did not sleep very well that weekend because food service is 80% of our business. On the Monday and the Tuesday, our internet almost went into meltdown, and we were getting unprecedented levels of orders coming through the internet. As of this morning, we have now done a year's worth of online work since the lockdown started. We've managed to pivot, for want of a better word, into a fairly strong position, and I fully appreciate that there are a lot of companies out there that through circumstances have not been able to do that.
Well, I've just had to grin and bear it, to be honest. I mean, all our staff are furloughed at the moment. There may be, towards the end of the season, is busy in the agricultural centre here. That's what we're hoping for at the moment, that we might get something from later on in the season. But up until September at the moment, I think it's quite fair to say that it just isn't going to happen. We are diversifying one bit. Our fish and chip units are very popular. We've been asked actually in phone calls to bring them to some of the smaller villages round about, so to keep some of the staff busy in that work, we've got the appropriate licences, etc. So we're going to be starting that in the next week or two. Apart from that, event side of it, I don't think there'll be anything much this year, to be honest. Yeah.
Best of luck to Gilbert at Countryside Refreshments. Gilbert's mobile units are a well-known feature of many showgrounds, and yeah, I really feel sorry for him at the moment with a business that's so reliant on shows, events and large gatherings of people. It cannot be easy. Also in that wee segment, we heard again from Robert at Galbraiths, we heard from Caroline at Ogilvy Spirits, Robert from Dales Agri and Jock from Macbeths Butchers. Roddy McLean from RBS has some other examples of rural businesses doing what they can to make the best of the current COVID-19 situation.
I can think of one farm business that is a small farm shop but with a cafe restaurant attached to that. That was unfortunately closed down. They very quickly saw an opportunity to focus on producing pies and ready meals. Not only did they go through the farm shop, but they started speaking to other local businesses to see if they would like a supplied those, and actually did some delivery the services straight to the end customer. And that's worked very well for them. In the month of April, their turnover has been up threefold. Obviously, there's some extra costs, but they've done well. They've seen the opportunity, been light on their feet, and it's worked. Another one I can think of, a customer repurposed some pallets to make a picnic table for his young granddaughter. And there was put some pictures on Facebook, and he got a lot of interest from folk that saw that, asking if he could do something similar for them. So He started producing benches, picnic tables, playhouses, sand pits, mud kitchens, etc. In this relatively short space of time that we've been in the pandemic mode, he's actually had to take on 2 other people to keep up with demand. Others have been reluctant to use some online presence. They have got an online presence and doing some online ordering, delivering. And there are some farm businesses that are putting up wee stalls at the end of the road for potatoes and eggs, etc. Doesn't make huge difference, but it's always a wee bit of help, and it's bringing back the connection of shop local and here's where your food comes from. So hopefully some of that will remain with consumers when we come out the other side.
I just wonder, in a general sense, what advice would you give to anyone listening to this that's struggling in business at the moment because of the pandemic, or because of, again, coming back to the lack of shop windows over the summer, or whatever it is,
Don't bottle it up. There are people like RSABI out there. Speak to the professional team that supports your business, whether it's your accountant, your bank manager. Government's put a lot of schemes in place to help support businesses with the impact of COVID on their business, whether it's a coronavirus business interruption loan or the bounce back loan. They're there to help. Bounce back loans are a fairly simple process to apply for online and swift decisioning that you could have money in your account within 2 or 3 days. There is unprecedented demand, which is putting pressure on our resources and I guess the other banks in Scotland as well to do it, but we are getting through them. So I say don't bottle it up. Share the problem. Doing that immediately releases some of the burden and the pressure that you're under.
Yeah, good. I totally agree. It's good to talk, isn't it? That's the thing. And
absolutely.
We've talked a lot, haven't we, in these episodes for the Royal Highland Society about just what, if anything, could or might replace the Highland Show for this year. And I guess we've got to look at what that would mean in terms of both social and business. Interestingly, on Friday just past, there was an announcement, I hope you might have seen it in some of the papers, of the idea for an online agricultural show in partnership with the Royal Highland Society. And this is going to take place on the weekend of 3rd and 4th of July. So I caught up with one of the organisers to tell us more.
Hello, my name's Gemma Mackenzie. I'm the farming editor at the Press and Journal newspaper. I'm here today to talk about the online Scottish agricultural show, which we are running together with the Courier newspaper and the Royal Highland Show.
Hi Gemma, you all right?
I'm good, thank you. How are you, Monty?
Yeah, I'm all right. So Gemma, tell us a bit more about this show.
So the show was born out of, I guess, the notion that everything's off this for the foreseeable future anyway, in terms of agricultural shows, and feeling that people wouldn't be able to go out and show their animals, meet their friends, check out the latest food and drink, the new tractors and things like that. So we had an idea that we could maybe do something online, a virtual event. The show will be similar to a traditional show in terms of the elements that you would see. There'll be a section for cattle, competitions, horse competitions, goats, sheep and poultry. We'll also have a dog competition, a cake competition, which I know you're going to say, how does that work online? But it's a picture competition. And also vintage tractor enthusiasts can also enter a competition whereby they enter a picture of their favourite tractor and it's then judged and crowned, I guess, cream of the crop at the show. It will run across the 2 days and people can go onto a dedicated website and look at different links to things to see the cattle beasts that have been entered, and we've got proper judges lined up to judge the categories. So it will be very similar to your traditional show, but you just don't have to leave your home and you can stay at home and stay safe to take part.
Good stuff, exciting stuff. Just in terms of the business angle of this episode was really focusing on business. Can you see a virtual event, people being able to do business in the same manner as they might at a physical show?
I would say yes. I mean, I spoke to one of our judges yesterday actually about what he thought about the show and what it meant for him. He's a regular exhibitor at many shows himself, and he said shows are a great place if you want to sell your pedigree animals in the future, a great place that people can say, you know, they'll see that you've done well at a show or that you're out and about, so they get to see your stock. So in terms of that, a lot of these animals, especially the bulls that people are taking to a show, will be sold later in the year, or perhaps it's the dam of an animal that will be sold later in the year. So I would like to think people would be able to do business from that sense. And for trade stands, you know, if people are coming to have a look at the different livestock contests, they're bound to go have a look at any offers somebody might have for machinery or specialist contractors and things like that. So I would say it does offer the same opportunity. You just don't have to walk around as much.
Good.
And one thing I did forget to mention, we also want to try raise funds for the Highland Show's educational charity, the Royal Highland Education Trust. We want to help them with their work and educating youngsters about food and farming. So everybody that enters one of the competitions will be asked to make a donation. So we're hoping not only will this be a platform for people to do business, have a friendly competition, but it will also be a way to improve understanding and education about the sector.
Thank you very much to Gemma Mackenzie from the Press and Journal. For more about that show, visit the website scottishagriculturalshow.co.uk or indeed the Courier or Press and Journal websites. That's nearly it for this Taking Care of Business episode of On Farm. Unfortunately, we haven't even scratched the surface of the hundreds of wonderful and diverse businesses who attend and trade at the show, but we do hope we've managed to give you a bit of a flavour. Do get in touch with your thoughts, stories and ideas for future episodes. You can tweet us at OnFARM UK. We would love to hear from you. There's just time for one last Highland Show thought. We're going to hear again from Johnny Watson of Watson Seeds. In your own words, Johnny, what makes the Highland Show so special?
I think it's not compromised its traditional value of being the farmer's occasion, with the town embracing what the farmer and farming community is all about. People are very polished up when they go there. They're proud to be at the show. It's the greatest agricultural show in the UK by far, and there's a bit of style, there's a lot of fun, and it's always easier doing business with people when they're feeling positive and in a good place, not standing in the steading with the rain driving at you, both desperate to get on with life. Whereas at the show everybody's feeling good, even if it's not just the sunniest day of the year. It's a special occasion. And I would say it really got a very special spirit, and that's the thing.